How did you kind of get into music, and how did you choose the Christian path?
We were just talking about this off camera, so this is a cool question. I didn't grow up in a necessarily a Christian home. I think every Latino family believes in God and goes to church to some extent, but like really understanding my faith didn't come until later years. And so a little, just touching on that, because I love to share, like you said, the journey of it. My dad had, problems with substance abuse and just kind of a rough upbringing for me, not having him around. But he was the first person in my immediate family to really have a God encounter, and showed back up in our lives and started taking me and my brother to church. And so like around 17 years old, I ended up giving my life to the Lord with my dad. And the church that he took me to, it was a play. They were doing like a play. I don't know if this still goes on, but back then it was like kind of like Heaven or Hell, like these really impactful teen plays. And I went and it just spoke to my heart, and I ended up like getting involved in that church in my local town. And so from there was a Bible study for musicians and singers and people that loved music. I was like, that's for me. And it was called Group One. And so I started going to that. And for those of you that know my musical journey, know that I started many years ago in a hip-hop pop group called Group One Crew. And so that's where this all kind of formed and took place, where I started touring with them and doing shows with them. We got a showcase in Nashville. And for like 3 Latino kids from Florida, we had never, I was like outside of driving to New York with my family, I didn't know anything outside of that. And so,
so before you go on,
yes,
you got something to clarify real quick with Group One.
Okay.
So some people think that you're actually related to somebody on the group, but you're not.
I'm sorry to break some people's hearts because you believe this lie. But I was actually not related to Manuel. He was the other group member. And then originally there was 3. It was Pablo, Manuel, and myself. And so everyone thought me and Manuel were related because we actually have the same last name. Right. And had big curly hair, but we were just friends. We didn't, I met his family when I joined the group, so.
Well, cool. Okay, well, continue your story.
Yes, so I started my musical journey with them. I was with them for many, many years, and then ended up getting married, having a baby, and feeling like it was my time to just enjoy motherhood and kind of see what was next in my life and my career.
Okay, so you took a break after that for a moment from the group.
From the
so
group.
How did you actually get into your solo career?
So I knew I wanted to continue music, like that it would eventually be what I do. But all I knew really in my professional career was the group. And I was kind of, which is funny, I still get super nervous to this day. I'm always like, super anxious or nervous when I have to do shows. And so in the group, I would always, I would rely on them a lot because it was my first experience kind of as a professional musician and singer, to be like, hey, I'll just sing, just let me know when it's my part. And they're like, Blanca, you can't just stay at the drums. You gotta come up and own the stage. And so they helped me a lot and coached me in that. But I was like, now I'm on my own, can I do this? It was really fearful kind of position because I'm like, I felt challenged and out of my comfort zone. But how many of us know that's exactly where we need to be at times to grow and to really find our voice and what God has for us. And so I just went for it. And my label was gracious enough and willing to take me on as a solo artist. And we tried it out. And my first song was Who I Am, was my first single out the gate as a solo artist.
So outside of your story, now you have the song The Healing, which is actually part of your story. And I thought the title itself is kind of different because it's The Healing, Not Healed. Because a lot of times we like to talk about once we're through everything and once we've gotten healed, but there's a process through that. So why did you choose The Healing instead of, I'm through everything?
I think exactly what you just said. A lot of these songs on this latest project, it's called the Heartbreak and The Healing. And they were basically diary entries for me, you know, like about the process, about what it's like to go through hardship and loss and really difficult things as a believer. And I think it's necessary. For me, the goal and my motivation has been, I've seen the need for real conversation in my life when it revolves around my faith journey and like who I am as a Christian, and like being able to talk about things that have been hard to talk about, whether that's divorce that I walk through, loss, abuse, just topics that almost feel like taboo for me as a Christian. And so I've made it my own healing process to write it in my music, because I believe that there's other people that need to hear that too. Right. So going back to the question, it's just that the healing is, I wanted to talk about that process, not just the finished product, but more so like I'm in the middle of it. Like if someone's hearing this song, that they can sing those lyrics and feel like, man, in this moment, God, you are healing me. You are working on me. You are doing something within. And it's not just showing a perfect picture every time, but more saying there is a need. And I'm not afraid to kind of admit that I need you to help me through this process.
Wow. I appreciate your transparency and being open with that, because sometimes we don't realize other people need to know our story. You know, we like to show everybody once we've gotten through the process. We've got all type of famous quotes we like to say. You can't have a testimony without a test. You can't have a message without the mess. But, you know, sometimes we don't like to show people our mess. We don't like to show people our test. So, you know, I think you showing your healing process will help other people know how to heal. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to put it out there, because somebody else needs that story just as much as you do. So
100%.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate your transparency. And there's actually something I want to talk about. There was a prank call that you received from Lecrae and 1K Few. Actually, I saw that. I thought that was so hilarious. So what was going through your head at the time when they were calling you?
Number one, like getting a random call from Lecrae and 1K Few, that's never happened in my entire life. So when I got the call, I'm like, what is happening? Like, you know, all these things are going through my mind. I'm like, is there a song that they want me to get on? Like, did something happen? Like, what's going on? And then as you hear the conversation, it was so confusing, because the prank was he only can say like, no church in the wild. No church in the wild. And he's like, man, no church in the wild. And I'm like, what are you saying? Do you need me to call a doctor? So it was hilarious. But I love it. I love having those moments where you can just be goofy and make connections that aren't about any business relationship, just like to have fun.
Just having fun. I think that's great. So, well, look, you've actually got a new song. While we're speaking of other artists, you got a new song with Jacqueline Carr, A New Day. So tell me about that. You know, what was it like working with Jacqueline? And, you know, the video was really cool. You know, where did you get the concept for the song?
So it was one of the later songs that I recorded for the album. I went out to LA and I got to work with a team that I really love. They did most of my album, but we added in a guy named Taylor Hill, who's just a phenomenal writer. And so I don't know, I don't even know how the song came to be, but I think it's because it was in the later part of my process. Like I said, my album is basically walking me through my divorce process. And so a lot of the beginning songs were, you know, full of heartbreak, and they had a lot of pain. And then as I begin to heal and go on this journey with the Lord, it's like, man, there's joy. How do I feel joy? I didn't think I would feel this again. Or why do I feel this newfound freedom? And like I'm stepping into kind of like I'm blossoming. It felt like an awakening for me. And so to capture that in song, like if you hear New Day, it makes you want to get up. It makes you want to, like, you feel confident, you feel happy. And so that's what I wanted to accomplish with that song, is to just have something that expressed what I was feeling in the moment. But then with Jacqueline, I think, as just speaking honestly, as a Latina within the CCM industry, I think I've noticed the importance of me being able to be almost like a representation or a reference for girls to come that want to do this or want to be a part of this industry. So I feel like it's important for me to always embrace that and to show that within my music. And then when I think of someone like Jacqueline, I'm like, this girl is 24 years old, one of the top female gospel artists. I'm like, how wonderful would it be for us to kind of unite as like CCM gospel, two different worlds, but like to do something together and just show that diversity and that unity for women. Like, I think that would be really powerful. That's my thought process. So I'm like, I'm just gonna reach out on Instagram. I don't know if this girl's even gonna say yes. And she responded and she heard the song and she's like, I want to do this. And so now she's like a really good friend. We talk all the time. She's an amazing person. And I think the goal was accomplished with that kind of featuring.
Are there certain songs that you decide, hey, this is going to be a song that I record in Spanish, or do I record this in English? How do you make that differentiation?
So most of everything that I do is in English. And then when I lost my parents to cancer, they would always tell me, like, please do music in Spanish. Like, at some point. Like, for your roots, for your family, like, show them who you are. And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't know how to, like, I would feel so nervous to, like, speak or sing in Spanish. And then I'm like, what if I have to do interviews? What if I go to these countries and they think I'm, like, I don't speak well and that's embarrassing. Like, so I had this idea in my mind. But when they passed, I was like, I want to keep their legacy alive. I want to do this that I feel that they would be really proud of. And so I started exploring this journey of doing songs in Spanish. So it really started with me taking songs that I already had and translating them into Spanish, using like people that could help me through that process. And then I came out in 2020. We were in a pandemic. I was like, I can't do my album. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I live in Florida, so there's producers and there's people here that maybe can join hands with me and figure out how we still create something in this time. So I came out with an album, EP, 5 songs called Renovada, and that was my first time. Most of all the songs were written with like me and my cousin. He's from Puerto Rico, but he lived in Orlando. And I'm like, I want to do this. Like, I want to figure out how to start the opposite way. Songs in Spanish that maybe just live in the Spanish market. And so we explored that, and it's been beautiful. It's been so cool for me in my personal journey. I feel like I've grown so much in just accepting like what makes me me and not being ashamed of those things. But as a Latina, whether it's right now my hair is straight because we had the double words, but I have, you know, the big curls or whatever it is, like these things that make me kind of different, but that I notice now that girls are really latching onto and they need to see, you know? So it's been a healing, a growing process for me, but now it's like, it's a part of the brand. It's what I do. Now I can go into Latin America. I've gone to Latin American countries. I've gone to Guatemala. I've gone to Puerto Rico. I've been able to perform some of these songs, and it just feels like I'm in my purpose.
That's awesome. Well, I don't understand the full songs, but they are nice. They're very beautiful, but I'm going to try to learn them. So, but that's been great.